There's a silent law written into the very structure of life, one no one can outrun. When a person betrays you, they believe in that moment they've gained something: power, freedom, advantage. But reality is not fooled. Trust broken is not a small act. It tears into the fabric of a soul, and it leaves a stain that no denial can wash away. They walk away thinking they have won, but in truth they have signed a contract with guilt, a contract that time will enforce with merciless precision. You may not always see it. You may wonder why they seem unaffected. But understand this: betrayal plants a seed of destruction within the betrayer, and that seed always grows. Karma isn't a myth. It's a force woven into cause and effect. Their guilt, silent, invisible, but crushing, will follow them like a shadow they can never outrun. And while they carry the unbearable weight of what they've done, you will rise above it, stronger, wiser, untouchable. Betrayal is a deep moral debt, and debt always comes due. Betrayal is not a small mistake. It's not a lapse of judgment that can be swept under the rug or explained away by circumstance. Betrayal is a decision, a deep, conscious violation of trust. When someone betrays you, whether by deception, abandonment, or manipulation, they are making a trade. In that moment, they are choosing short-term gain over long-term integrity. They are choosing comfort over responsibility. And the universe, both the inner world of their conscience and the outer world of relationships, demands repayment for that violation. People often believe they can escape the consequences of betrayal. They think that if they hide it well enough, deny it loud enough, or justify it long enough, they can simply move on unscathed. But that belief is a delusion. The act of betrayal itself sets into motion an invisible process. It is like borrowing against a moral credit line that will one day be called in with interest. You can lie to others, and you can even lie to yourself for a while, but reality is structured in such a way that truth eventually emerges, and when it does, it demands payment. Moral debt is different from financial debt. When you owe money, the worst that can happen is repossession or bankruptcy. But when you owe moral debt, when you owe your own soul the price for what you've done, the consequences are deeper and far more devastating. This debt seeps into every relationship you try to form. It poisons your ability to trust others because deep down, you know what you yourself are capable of. It corrodes your self-respect because it reminds you, even in your quietest moments, that you are not who you pretend to be. There is a strange thing that happens to betrayers over time. They begin to lose the ability to experience genuine connection because connection requires honesty, loyalty, vulnerability, all the things they have undermined in themselves through their actions. Every new bond they try to create is stained by the guilt they carry. Every moment of supposed happiness is tainted by the knowledge, even from their conscious minds, that they have burned bridges behind them. Many people wonder why some betrayers seem to move on so easily, why they seem unaffected while those they harmed are left to pick up the pieces. It's because in the early stages, betrayal offers an illusion, the illusion of freedom, the illusion of success. They feel unburdened, lighter, as if they have thrown off a weight. But what they have actually thrown away is their own moral center. And that loss is not felt immediately. It creeps in slowly, showing itself in broken friendships, failed ventures, restless nights, and that gnawing, unshakable sense that something vital is missing. Think of it like someone eating rotten food. At first, they may enjoy the taste. It may even seem satisfying, but inevitably, sickness follows. It is written into the nature of what they consumed. In the same way, the spiritual sickness of betrayal is inevitable. No amount of distraction, pleasure-seeking, or rationalization can prevent it. They have introduced poison into their own system, and the effects cannot be avoided. They can only be delayed. One of the great misunderstandings of our time is the belief that consequences must be immediate to be real. But true consequences often unfold over years, sometimes decades. A person may seem to thrive for a time after betraying someone they once cared for. They may build a new life, craft a new story. But the cracks begin to show eventually. Trust is harder to earn, love feels hollow, achievements feel meaningless, relationships lack depth, and the betrayer, unable to name the source of their emptiness, drifts further into isolation. When you have been betrayed, it is tempting to want immediate justice. It is natural to ache for some sign that the wrong has been corrected, that the scales have been balanced. But trust this, life keeps perfect accounts. The emotional and moral debt they have accrued is accumulating interest every day. And eventually, when they are alone with their thoughts, when the masks fall away and there is no one left to impress or deceive, they will come face to face with the full weight of what they have done. There is a moment, and it comes without warning, when a betrayer sees their reflection, not in a mirror, but in the consequences they cannot escape, in the trust they cannot earn, in the relationships that fall apart without clear reason, in the restless dissatisfaction that shadows every supposed success. That moment is the bill coming due. And it is often a heavier price than anything you could have demanded from them yourself. So when you think about betrayal, think about it for what it truly is. Not just a wound to you, but a deep wound to the betrayer's own soul. A wound that will fester and grow until it consumes the very parts of them they thought they were preserving. And remember, you do not have to chase justice. Life already has it in motion. Their debt is real. Their payment is inevitable. Guilt is an inescapable companion to the betrayer. Guilt is a force that lives in the very structure of human consciousness. It is not simply an emotion that comes and goes like anger or sadness. Guilt is a signal from the deepest part of the soul, warning that something has gone terribly wrong. It is the body and mind's natural reaction to moral failure, a reminder that the betrayer has stepped outside the order of trust, truth, and integrity. And once guilt is awakened, it becomes a relentless companion, following the betrayer everywhere, even into the moments they believe themselves free. At first, betrayers often manage to suppress their guilt. They drown it out with distractions, with new relationships, with ambition, with entertainment. They tell themselves that they had no choice, that they were justified, that what they did wasn't so bad. For a while, those stories can shield them from the full weight of what they have done. But guilt is not easily silenced. It seeps through the cracks. It lurks at the edge of their consciousness, waiting for a moment of stillness to reassert itself. You see it most clearly when the noise of life fades, when the parties end, when the career achievements lose their shine, when they are left alone with their thoughts in the quiet hours of the night. That is when guilt speaks loudest. It whispers through the sleepless nights. It echoes in the empty rooms. It shapes the way they see the world. No matter how far they run, no matter how cleverly they hide, guilt is there, not as a punishment imposed from the outside, but as a natural consequence of their own actions. Guilt doesn't just remain as an abstract feeling. It transforms the very identity of the betrayer, Over time, it rewires how they view themselves. One of the cruel ironies they may still project confidence is that it often hides internally layers of anger, they know they have become someone they once despised. Instead of facing the weight of what they have done, begins to bleed into everything they do. They blame others, they rewrite the past, it strains their relationships in which they were the real victims. It turns their successes hollow. But these are only desperate no matter what they achieve to escape from the inescapable. The knowledge, the more they lie to themselves to get there, the more fractured their inner world becomes. And slowly, without realizing it, they drift into a life of confusion, resentment, and chronic dissatisfaction. The people who betray others do not live in peace, even if they appear to for a time. Their minds are busy defending themselves against their own conscience. Every act of deception they committed must be defended and rationalized over and over again. Every memory of loyalty they broke must be reshaped into a justification. This inner war is exhausting. It drains their vitality, it saps their joy, it clouds their vision. Eventually, it isolates them, not necessarily from others at first, but from themselves. They can no longer see clearly who they are or what they have become. When you encounter someone who has betrayed you and seems unaffected, understand that appearances are often deceiving. People can smile while carrying invisible burdens. They can celebrate while inwardly hollow. True guilt is a slow poison. It doesn't always cause immediate collapse, but it steadily erodes from within. It shows up in small ways: the inability to form deep connections, the need for constant validation, the restless search for fulfillment that never quite satisfies. These are the fingerprints of a soul that has not made peace with itself. Sometimes betrayers try to drown their guilt in new loyalties, finding new people to trust them, new relationships to validate them. But these attempts often fail because the guilt they carry colors every interaction. Trust requires honesty, and when a person has betrayed before, they struggle to trust even themselves. How can they believe in the loyalty of others when they know how easily loyalty can be discarded? They live in a world of suspicion, a world where every smile hides potential betrayal, every promise rings hollow. Their guilt has recreated the world in their own image, a place where no one can truly be trusted. You do not need to seek revenge on those who betrayed you. Guilt is already at work, day by day, hour by hour, draining their strength, eroding their peace, dismantling the illusion of their success. And the more they pretend, the heavier the guilt becomes. Pretending demands energy. Defending the lie demands vigilance. Eventually, life itself forces them to face the reality they have tried so hard to deny. No one can live forever in conflict with their own soul. In the end, the betrayer is left with a choice. They can continue running, continue building walls against the guilt, living half-lives full of fear and bitterness, or they can confront the truth of what they have done, face the full weight of it, and begin the long, painful road to redemption. But very few choose that path because it requires a humility and a courage most betrayers have already abandoned. So understand this deeply. Guilt is a perfect judge. It cannot be bribed, deceived, or silenced for long. It binds itself to the betrayer's heart and walks with them through every success, every failure, every hollow victory. It is the natural consequence of moral failure. And it ensures with quiet and unshakable certainty that no betrayal ever goes unanswered. Karma isn't mystical, it's psychological and social law. When people hear the word karma, they often think of it as something mystical, a force that floats above life, doling out rewards and punishments based on some invisible cosmic ledger. But karma is far more grounded than that. It's not magic, it's not fantasy. Karma is embedded in the way human beings interact with themselves, with others, and with the world. It is a psychological and social reality, and it cannot be escaped. Every action we take is a seed planted in the soil of our lives. Betrayal, deceit, cruelty, these are not isolated events. They do not vanish after they are committed. They live inside the person who commits them, altering the way they think, the way they relate to others, the way they experience the world. Karma is simply the unfolding of these internal and external consequences over time. It is not punishment from the outside, it is the inevitable harvest of the seeds sown by one's own choices. When a person betrays another, they think they are harming only the other person. They see the pain they cause, and they might even feel triumphant for a time. But what they fail to see is how the betrayal also alters themselves. To betray is to teach oneself that loyalty is worthless, that honesty is negotiable, that people are tools to be used rather than souls to be honored. And once you have taught yourself these lessons, you cannot unlearn them easily. They become the lens through which you view the world. This is why karma operates with such precision. A person who betrays others becomes suspicious themselves. They become unable to form deep bonds because deep down, they know how easily bonds can be broken. They struggle to trust because they have made themselves untrustworthy. They project their own disloyalty onto everyone they meet, seeing betrayal around every corner. Their relationships become shallow, transactional, and fraught with hidden tensions. They live surrounded by the very atmosphere they created. Socially, karma is just as real. Human beings are deeply perceptive, often in ways they are not consciously aware of. Over time, people sense when someone cannot be trusted. They pick up on inconsistencies, on the subtle unease that betrayers carry with them. Opportunities dry up, friendships wither, respect erodes, and the betrayer, bewildered, wonders why the world seems so cold, why nothing lasts, why satisfaction slips through their fingers. They are experiencing the natural social consequences of their own moral failures. Psychologically, karma shows up in even deeper ways. The mind cannot be at peace when it is at war with the truth. Every betrayal must be justified internally, defended against endlessly. This creates a mental environment of constant vigilance and stress. The betrayer becomes a prisoner of their own lies, building mental walls that eventually turn into a fortress of isolation. They are haunted not by any external punishment, but by their own conscience, by the dissonance between who they pretend to be and who they know they have become. It is important to understand that karma operates over time, often unfolding slowly and invisibly. Just because someone appears to be thriving after betraying you does not mean they have escaped the consequences. Time has a way of bringing hidden realities into the open. The seeds they planted in secrecy eventually bloom for all to see. And often the collapse comes not with a bang, but with a slow, grinding erosion of everything they once valued: trust, love, respect, inner peace. In the deepest sense, karma is a mirror. It reflects back to us the sum of our actions and attitudes. A life built on betrayal and deception cannot reflect anything but emptiness and distrust. A life built on loyalty and truth, though it may suffer deeply in the short term, ultimately reflects resilience, depth, and peace. There is a justice woven into the very structure of existence, and it is far more relentless and exact than any human system of punishment could ever be. For those who have been betrayed, it is vital to trust in this reality. It is easy to become bitter, to fantasize about revenge, to wish for immediate retribution. But such pursuits only entangle you in the same darkness that captured the betrayer. The better path is to heal, to build, to strengthen yourself, to live so fully in truth and strength that their betrayal becomes powerless against you. Let karma do its work. Life will handle the balance. It always does. There is an old truth that those who break others ultimately break themselves. This is not superstition. It is the unfolding of cause and effect in human life. Betrayers, in their moment of treachery, believe they are acting cleverly, but they are setting a slow fire inside their own hearts. That fire may burn quietly for a time, but eventually it consumes what is most valuable in life: integrity, connection, meaning. So understand karma not as a distant mystical force, but as a living law within your own life and the lives of others. Know that everything counts, every act matters, every choice you make, every word you speak is a seed planted in the soil of your future. Betrayers reap deserts of isolation. Those who remain faithful, even when wounded, reap gardens of strength and purpose. Karma is not out there, somewhere far away. It is here, it is now, it is already unfolding. Time exposes the weight of broken loyalty. Loyalty is one of the rarest and most valuable treasures in human life. It is not something that can be demanded or bought. It must be freely given and carefully nurtured. When you are loyal to someone, you offer them a piece of yourself, your trust, your belief, your willingness to stand by them even when it is difficult. To break that loyalty is not a small offense. It is the shattering of something sacred. And while the consequences may not always be immediate, time has a way of revealing the true weight of broken loyalty. At first, those who betray loyalty often feel little consequence. They may convince themselves that it was necessary, that they were justified, that the person they betrayed deserved it. They move forward quickly, or so it seems, leaving behind the wreckage of what they destroyed. In the early stages, it is easy for them to believe they have escaped unharmed. They fill the empty space with distractions, with new relationships, with false narratives that paint themselves as victims rather than betrayers. But time is not easily fooled. Loyalty, once broken, creates fractures, not just in the relationship, but in the very soul of the one who broke it. Over weeks, months, and years, those fractures widen. What was once a sharp pang of guilt becomes a chronic, dull ache. What was once a defensive story they told themselves begins to wear thin under the weight of reality. Slowly but surely, the cost of their actions rises to the surface. Relationships built on betrayal rarely flourish. When someone is proven willing to betray loyalty once, they carry that mark into every new connection. They bring with them a subconscious fear that others will do to them what they did to someone else. Trust becomes harder to establish. Friendships remain shallow. Love feels transactional rather than sacred. Without loyalty, there can be no true intimacy, only arrangements, only temporary alliances that crumble under pressure. Time also has a way of stripping away illusions. In the beginning, betrayers often surround themselves with people who do not know the full story. They create new identities, trying to escape the past. But as time passes, patterns emerge. The same betrayals repeat. The same selfishness surfaces, and eventually the people around them begin to see the cracks. Their reputation, carefully rebuilt on half-truths and manipulation, starts to crumble. The truth they tried to bury refuses to stay hidden. There is a loneliness that follows broken loyalty. It is not always visible on the surface, but it runs deep. It is the loneliness of knowing that no bond is truly secure, that no relationship is truly safe because they themselves made it so. When you have betrayed loyalty, you forever alter your ability to believe fully in the loyalty of others. Suspicion becomes second nature. Doubt becomes a constant companion. Every kind word feels like a potential lie. Every close bond feels like a trap waiting to spring. For those who were betrayed, the passage of time offers something different. It offers clarity. In the beginning, betrayal feels like a personal failure, as if you were foolish for trusting, as if you were naive for believing in loyalty. But time reveals the deeper truth that offering loyalty was not your weakness, but your strength. That the betrayal was not a reflection of your worth, but of their character. In the long run, your loyalty stands as a testament to your integrity, while their betrayal becomes a stain they cannot wash away. It is important to recognize that time tests everyone. Loyalty demands consistency. It demands perseverance. Those who betray often do so because they cannot bear the burden of consistency. They crave freedom from responsibility. They chase short-term desires at the expense of long-term bonds. But life rewards those who endure, those who remain faithful to their principles even when tested. Over time, the difference between the loyal and the betrayer becomes starkly visible. One builds a life rich with meaning and real connection. The other finds themselves surrounded by broken pieces they cannot repair. Time also brings opportunities for redemption, but they are not easily seized. True repentance for broken loyalty requires facing the full depth of what was done. It requires more than apologies. It requires transformation. It demands the rebuilding of character, piece by painful piece. Most do not choose that path. They prefer to blame, to excuse, to minimize, and so they remain trapped in the cycle of broken bonds and hollow victories, unable to escape the consequences their own actions set in motion. For you, the one who is loyal and suffered for it, trust the slow, patient work of time. Trust that your loyalty is not wasted, even if it was not honored. The world needs people who know how to be faithful, who understand the value of trust. Your loyalty, though broken by another, still shapes who you are, and it will attract the kind of people who can recognize and cherish it. Time reveals all things. It reveals the shallow foundations upon which betrayers build their lives. It reveals the hidden strength of those who stay true to their word. It brings justice not through sudden acts, but through the slow, undeniable unfolding of reality. The weight of broken loyalty is heavy, and those who carry it cannot simply set it down. It follows them, grows within them, and defines the world they must live in. So let time do its work. Let it expose the cracks. Let it bring forth the truth. And while it does, continue to build your life on the foundation of real loyalty, real strength, and real courage. Because in the end, those are the things that endure, when everything false has finally fallen away. Healing is the true victory, while guilt and karma devour them. Or in the aftermath of betrayal, it is easy to believe that the only true victory would be to see those who wronged you suffer, that their downfall, their exposure, their unraveling would somehow erase the pain they caused. And while it is true that guilt and karma eventually come for them, devouring the peace they once took for granted, focusing on their destruction is not where your real power lies. True victory is found elsewhere. True victory is healing, deep, genuine healing that liberates you completely from their shadow. At first, healing may seem like a weak response. Pain demands justice. The heart demands acknowledgement of the wrong done. You may feel that if you move forward too soon, if you find peace too quickly, you are letting them get away with it. But healing is not forgetting. Healing is not pretending it didn't happen. Healing is reclaiming your soul from the grip of what they did. It is refusing to allow their actions to dictate the course of your life. It is choosing freedom over perpetual bondage to bitterness. Guilt is a prison they cannot escape, but it is not your role to guard their cell. Those who betray and deceive eventually find themselves trapped by their own choices. The mind has mechanisms that no one can bypass, mechanisms that demand congruence, that demand truth. Betrayers can lie to others, but they cannot completely silence the voice within that reminds them of what they have done. Over time, that voice grows louder. Over time, guilt morphs into a constant companion, one that poisons their relationships, their opportunities, their inner peace. Karma, too, is relentless. It does not rush, but it does not forget. It weaves consequences into the fabric of life itself. Every act of disloyalty, every moment of selfishness, every manipulation carries weight, and that weight accumulates. What begins as a minor discomfort turns into patterns of isolation, broken trust, and missed blessings. It is not always dramatic. It is often subtle, quiet, invisible from the outside, but it is real, and it is merciless. They are left to harvest the pain they once so easily sowed. Yet, if you tether your heart to their downfall, you remain entangled in their story. You bind yourself to their journey, to their timeline of collapse and regret. That is not victory. That is another form of captivity. Your healing must be separate from their suffering. It must be rooted not in what happens to them, but in who you are becoming. Healing is choosing to build a life so rich, so vibrant, so deeply rooted in truth that their betrayal becomes merely a painful chapter, not the whole story. Healing does not mean that you do not remember. It means that you remember without the wound bleeding every time it is touched. It means you can recall what happened without losing yourself in anger or grief. It means that you can look back with clear eyes, see the lessons, acknowledge the hurt, and still move forward with an open heart. Healing does not erase the past, it reclaims your future. As you heal, you will find that the energy you once spent thinking about them, about the betrayal, about the injustice, begins to be freed. You will find yourself investing that energy into dreams you had shelved, into relationships you had doubted, into aspects of yourself that had been overshadowed by pain. Healing transforms suffering into wisdom, heartbreak into strength. It does not waste a single tear. It converts every drop of sorrow into deeper resilience. And in this process, something extraordinary happens. You rise beyond them, not in the shallow sense of winning or defeating them, but in the profound sense of transcending the entire system they chose to remain trapped in. They are left to battle their guilt, to wrestle with the consequences of their choices, to live in the world they created for themselves. You, meanwhile, step into a new world, one built on authenticity, on loyalty, on self-respect. You become someone their betrayal could not destroy. It is often said that the best revenge is living well, but it is deeper than that. The best victory is living free. Free from bitterness, free from obsession, free from the need for their downfall to validate your worth. Healing grants you that freedom. Healing writes a new ending to the story they tried to ruin. It is a declaration that you are not defined by what they did to you, but by how you chose to respond, by how you chose to rise. In the grand scheme of life, guilt and karma will take care of them. Their seeds of betrayal will bear bitter fruit. Their conscience will not let them rest. Their relationships will mirror back the trust they shattered. You do not need to orchestrate their suffering. Life already has. But your responsibility, your calling is higher. It is to heal so profoundly that you no longer need their downfall to feel whole. You are bigger than what happened to you. You are stronger than the betrayal you endured. You are worthy of a life untainted by the shadows of the past. Healing is not weakness, it is courage. It is the ultimate triumph of light over darkness, of truth over deceit, of hope over despair. So let them wrestle with their guilt. Let karma unravel the lives they built on falsehoods. You heal, you build, you thrive, you win in the only way that truly matters, by becoming everything their betrayal could never destroy.